Welcome to UBC Sociology, where we do transformational teaching, impactful research, and engage with our community and the world.
This year, I focused my public outreach on getting the word out about my recently published book. I did so by publishing op-eds in places like the Toronto Star and the Hill Times, as well as producing a piece on National Public Radio.
I've been working on building partnerships with my students, and we've been doing this through disseminating and researching about critical hope and about pedagogies. So for example, my students and I created an open education text, practicing and presenting social research, which we co-authored. And we also wrote a chapter in the latest version of the Reading Sociology text. And at present, I am working with two students to redevelop and to reimagine our Sociology of Families course to incorporate critical hope.
One of the biggest issues facing the 21st century is data. What do we do with data? How do we turn data into insights? That's where I sit. So I use computational methods in my research. I teach computational methods, including machine learning, natural language processing to grad students. I teach undergrads the issues about data in society and privacy, ethical, and other issues related to surveillance and data and AI. I am associate editor of EPJ Data Science to bring a social science perspective to the growing world of data science. And I am the inaugural director of the Center for Computational Social Science to coordinate this activity across the Faculty of Arts to make sure UBC has a voice in this growing and important field of computational social science.
My career in sociology has been focused largely on issues of aging, social support, and health. One of the things I'm most proud of in my academic career is that I'm recognized as the strategic champion in establishing the Canadian Longitudinal Study on Aging. This study tracks 50,000 Canadians over the age of 45 for a 20-year period. I remain actively involved on the boards of several public-facing organizations, one being AgeWell, Canada's Aging and Technology Network, and the other Health Data Research Canada.
I believe that sociology is an important perspective for understanding the world, and as such, my goal is to translate dense, sophisticated social science into easily accessible public sociology. I currently am the co-editor with Mean Ghaziani of Context Magazine, which is the American Sociological Association's public-facing, publicly engaged journal. And my own research is on adolescent suicide and focused on how schools can make kids' lives better, make kids happier, and also create better safety systems.
In my research on the relationship between socioeconomic status and broadly defined well-being among marginalized inner-city populations, I've really come to view sociology and public sociology as a conduit or a bridge between the lived experience of community and public policy. And so as I do my research, I have a program of integrated knowledge translation and exchange that really focuses on opportunities for reciprocal learning, on making sure that the policy environment is primed for the uptake of research findings, and making sure that my research and the recommendations that I make to policymakers are reflective of the lived experience of community and community need.
I am the grad chair here in sociology, and I teach Canadian society. My research claim to fame is that I wrote an article called Retire the Letter of Reference, and it got published in Science. I would also say that in preparing this video, what I've learned is that talking and smiling at the same time is very challenging.
I work at the intersection of sociology of the environment and sociology of health. Lots of my research is focused on the relationship between weather-related disasters and racial disparities in economic and health outcomes. I work with some students here at UBC on a project on extreme weather and racial disparities in birth outcomes, as well as disasters and racial segregation. In these empirical works, I've also been engaged with several elected members of US Congress to help develop legislation to promote equity in the face of climate change.
Yate yates a sevke dochike kwasene. I'm Kimberly Heiser. My research focuses on the lives and life experiences of Indigenous peoples on Turtle Island. I'm the lead of CEDAR, which is the COVARNet's Indigenous Engagement, Development, and Research Pillar, which is funded by CIHR. In that work, we develop relationship with Indigenous communities. We hear Indigenous voices about their experiences during the pandemic, and we also work to support and amplify the grassroots efforts of Indigenous peoples to address health inequities. Within our work at CEDAR, we also have a social media campaign, #BeatAndThrive, in which we have invested over 700 beading kits to Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island for them to learn the cultural skill of beading, because due to settler colonialism, etc., cultural teachings have often been unable to be passed down generationally, and so we are working to address that gap with CEDAR. And finally, I am also the chair of the American Sociological Association, Indigenous Peoples and Native Nations, in which our work here is to amplify and promote work for and with Indigenous peoples, particularly that address the systematic erasure of Indigenous peoples within the discipline of sociology. I'm pleased to be a member of the UBC Sociology department and continue to do my work here in this part of Turtle Island.
Right now I'm working on projects related to friendship and friendship formation within community organizations that are operating within complex and diverse contexts. I do a lot of my research in collaborative ways. Right now I'm working with a network of community organizations in Vancouver that are called neighborhood houses. I also have recently organized a community advisory board with the new Center for Migration Studies here at UBC.
My work focuses on population changes, mainly in developing countries and particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. One of the things I'm most excited about and most proud of is the growth of research using big data, and I'm very honored to be part of the process that led to the establishment of the Center for Computational Studies here in the faculty.
I like to say that my work explores the dark side of labor markets because a lot of it has focused on inequality and insecurity at work. Most recently, I've been exploring the implications of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic for gendered employment inequalities. Now, in addition to academic publications and media commentary, this research has been discussed by policymakers and informed my expert testimony for a dispute between the Government of Canada and the largest public sector union in the country. Bridging academic knowledge and policy discussions is also something that I promote in my work as academic director of the UBC Research Data Centre and board member of the broader Canadian Research Data Centres Network. The CRDCN provides the core infrastructure through which UBC researchers access sensitive Statistics Canada and linked administrative data, and is thus critical for social scientists investigating issues important to the country.
One project that I'm working with the Lincoln graduate student team in sociology department is like we are trying to understand the proletariat identity from the laid-off industrial workers, and I think this project may allow us to challenge some basic assumptions in Marxist sociology, and from the perspective of the everyday life of industrial workers. And the second one is like my student Jiaxing, we are working on it's like the integration of the immigrants in Canada, in both Metro Vancouver and other parts in Canada, say Nova Scotia, and we try to challenge some of the existing models in migration, say the Chinatown type migration, and because it's like our finding is really different from these theoretical arguments.
Thanks for watching our video. To learn more about UBC Sociology, please subscribe.